Baldwin of Wisconsin joins me now from Capitol Hill. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Kate. Thanks for having me.
So you are bringing one of your constituents from Wisconsin, Roddy Rice, from New London. He's a steel worker, or used to be a steel worker. I'm not sure if he still is. You wrote
He's recently retired. From the Neenah Foundry.
And you wrote an op-ed in the Urban Milwaukee yesterday in which you wrote, the Republican establishment in Washington has ignored him. Now is the time for President Trump to decide if he will keep his promises or go along to get along with congressional Republicans. What's the message you're trying to send tonight, Senator, by having him with you?
Well, first of all, Roddy has worked 38 years at the Neenah Foundry before retiring. His son still works there. Many friends do. And they work hard. And the idea is that when we spend taxpayer dollars on things like bridges and roads, but also our water infrastructure, those taxpayer dollars ought to be supporting American jobs and American products, inputs to these infrastructure projects. And Donald Trump talked a lot about that during his campaign, during his transition, and now it's the time for him to spell out with some detail his plans to do that. But I have to tell you, he had a chance to speak out during his transition when my Buy America language in the Water Resources Development Act, the nation's water infrastructure bill, was stripped out by House Republicans. This is an issue where he had just gone to Cincinnati and said, hire American, buy American, and he needs to follow through. And so that's what I'll be listening for today, to make sure that he is held accountable to the promises that he made to working Wisconsinites and working Americans.
It was stripped out, wasn't it, because Republicans felt that wasn't the right place for it? The right venue?
You know, there's no better place for Buy America policies than our water infrastructure bill. But, you know, the Wall Street Journal reported that it was pulled out at the behest of lobbyists representing Chinese and Russian steel interests. That's exactly what we shouldn't be listening to. And that's the cynicism that Americans and Wisconsinites feel about Washington right now, that there's people who can get into those Republican establishment offices and write the rules to advantage their own interests rather than the working person in Wisconsin or the working person in America. And so I am really looking to this president to follow through on his Buy America and Hire America policies. That's what I've been fighting for. And frankly, I'd welcome that ally. But that's what I'll be listening for tonight.
Let me ask you about a couple other things tonight. We expect the president to talk about expanding the military. You're on the Senate Budget Committee. This morning he said that that's an emphasis for him. Let's play a little sound from his interview with Fox this morning.
Well, we're going to spend a lot more money on military. We really have to. We have no choice. And a lot of people think it's a tremendous amount of money. It could be actually $30 million, $30 billion more than that. We're going to upgrade our military very substantially.
What do you think about the priorities that he's laying out in terms of the budget, Senator?
Well, certainly budgets need to be value-based documents. And I would say certainly I support our military and giving them what they need to be safe and to keep America safe. But there are many things that make us strong, and some of that has to do with the priority that we put on America's workers and the possibility to get ahead in America. We know that so many people across my state and across the country feel like Washington isn't listening. And we need to respond to those priorities also.
Senator, before I let you go, I want to ask you about health care and as it relates to the opioid epidemic, because I know you've done a lot of fighting for money to try to help people with those issues. Last month, the governor of Ohio, John Kasich, said, thank God that Ohio expanded Medicaid because it helped them fight the opioid crisis. They used some of that expansion of Medicaid to help people. Now that Republicans are saying the system is collapsing, this morning the speaker said Obamacare is completely broken, insurance companies don't want to be a part of it, premiums are skyrocketing. You've heard all the Republican arguments. What do you think happens to Obamacare, and is there any fix that you could support?
Well, Kate, first of all, I have traveled the state of Wisconsin hosting gatherings to talk about the opioid and heroin epidemic in our state. And one thing I can tell you for sure is that the Affordable Care Act has made it easier for people to access treatment, because for the first, or not for the first time, but the parity requirements say if you treat physical illness, you also have to treat mental illness and substance abuse issues. And so access has expanded. And the last thing I want to do is see that snatched away when people who are motivated to conquer an addiction and be involved in recovery, I don't want to see those services snatched away. This is so short-sighted. And what I can tell you is that the people of Wisconsin did not send me to the Senate to take away people's health care. We've got to work together to strengthen our health care system, but not repeal the very protections and ends to the prohibitions of insurance abuses that led so many people in America previously into medical bankruptcy or ill health. The Affordable Care Act brought us many, many paces forward, and we cannot abandon that progress.
Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, nice to see you.